Hello, welcome to Orthodox Christian Television. I'm Father Christodolos. You'll be seeing this program during post-Paschal time, so I say Christos Anesti. Today we're going to have another panel discussion, continuing the format that I introduced last month. The discussion again will be today the schism that Christianity finds itself in today. Why is there an Orthodox Church? Why is there a Roman Catholic Church? Why are there 20 different thousand Protestant denominations? There's a book that explains the origins of this chaos in the Christian world. The name of the book is Franks, Romans, Feudalism, and Doctrine by Father John S. Romanides. Father John titled his book, gave a subtitle to the book, An Interplay Between Theology and Society. And I have on the panel again Vasily Biniadis and Michael Halford. Welcome again. Christos Anesti.
Thank you, Father. Thank you for having us.
The discussion last month, we were talking about how there's a split in the Christian world, how there's an Orthodox world, an Orthodox Church, a Roman Catholic Church, and many of these thousands of Protestant churches. We discussed that it was really not a split within the church itself, that it was basically a one world church, an Orthodox church in the Roman Empire that was conquered in pieces, and that's how the church split up. Maybe one of you wants to jump in and recap. Sure. Basically what actually did we discuss. Remember, we're coming from the ideas contained in this book by Father John.
Right. In broad terms, I think we're not going into the specific details that we discussed last time. But I also have to say, before discussing that, it's very interesting and it's important for the viewers to realize one of the main reasons why Father John is writing the book is to discuss the pretext for a proper union amongst Christians and this mentality that's prevailing today.
Which is what we want, which is desirable.
Right, exactly. But this mentality that's prevailing today, that basically all these different denominations that are out there that you just mentioned, thousands of them, anybody basically creates their own faith, that they comprise the body of the church, finally has to be confronted. And I think that's what Father John is doing. He's trying to define the true nature of the body of the church.
In other words, to be a Christian doesn't mean whatever you want it to be. In other words,
right.
Each individual who finds the Bible, who finds Christ's apostles' writings, doesn't determine what the church is. The church is a definite organization. It's a definite...
With borders.
It has borders, it has its organization, it has its dogmas and doctrines. And where that church is the controversy. And
exactly.
who that church is, or what is the true version of that church. And what Father John is doing, you're saying, is to get back to the origins of this, the split.
He's actually discussing this on its real face, basically, the issue at hand, where it should be discussed, and not at these false, basically, smokescreen issues that are being discussed these days, mostly around us.
Let's look at this geographically for a minute. We have in the world, in the early Christian world, an empire that comprised basically what's called the Mediterranean Sea and the areas around the Mediterranean Sea. The Roman lake, the Mare Romanum, as the Romans called it, the Mediterranean lake, the Roman Sea. This empire, when it became Christianized, was basically an Orthodox Christian empire, is what Father John is saying. It was an Orthodox Christian empire. Early on, it started off with just a few Christians, population-wise, but then it spread until to be a Roman was to be a Christian, and to be a Christian was to be a Roman. And this is where the problem arises. This is where the controversy arises. Michael, you're dying to say something.
Well, it's interesting to note that in all the discussions about the conflicts between Christians, one of the key issues which is left out is this notion of a Christian empire, this notion of Christian unity, this notion of a multi-ethnic kind of with a common unity of Christianity. And in all the discussions of Christianity, the history of Christianity, this notion of Christian unity based upon the model of the Roman Empire, the model of a common culture, a common Christian culture, and that idea is somehow missing. And so what instead we have is these notions of agree to disagree. Okay. Let's not go back to the common history of Christianity. Let's not go back to a common vision of the world, to a common culture. Let's agree to disagree.
Well, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that common culture, to that Roman nation. What happened? What happened to the church that was a national church? It was a unified national church in the Roman nation. What happened to that? How did it break up into a million pieces?
Well, in successive waves of conquering the Franks, or the Germanic tribes which conquered the Roman Empire in successive stages, they divided the empire as one divides spoils in a war, and the territory that they eventually gained control over has now become the modern Roman Catholic Church.
Or in later...
And later, of course,
the Reformation.
The Reformation further splintered that into the thousands of Protestant denominations we all see today.
But when does Father John, in his book, explain did this first start happening? When did the Roman Empire first start being conquered by the Franks?
Well, he said it was very early, like in the 400s.
In the 400s. I guess in different parts of the empire
Yeah.
it happened at different times.
That's correct.
And it culminated when finally the papacy, or the patriarch and bishop of Rome, was turned into a Frank.
That's correct.
Let's go ahead.
If I could just cut you off,
Yeah,
Father.
cut off any time.
It's real
Feel free to
important.
cut off any time, Michael.
And I think it's real important just to emphasize what you just said, because, like I said earlier, we misunderstand the nature of the conflict and the debate these days. You just said when the papacy was basically turned and taken over by a Frank, and it's interesting to note the orthodoxy of the papacy, the orthodoxy of the Bishop of Rome pre that taking over of the papacy. Basically, the Pope at many times, and specifically right before these conflicts and divisions occurred, saved the Orthodox world from certain heresies and defended against heresies. So I think it's important to note that the situation that exists today did not exist back then. The Pope, the Bishop of Rome, was part of that body, the Church, the Orthodox Church, that was called the Catholic and Apostolic Church, and which still exists today, of course.
So basically what Father John is saying is that the Orthodox Church is the Roman Catholic Church. That is the Roman Church because it's the descendant of that national church that was the national religion of the Roman nation, so therefore it's Roman. And it's the Catholic Church because Catholic is the universal church that the apostles founded. So that, in a way, the Orthodox Church is the Roman Catholic Church. And he calls what is known as the Roman Catholic Church today, he calls it the Latin or Frankish Church.
I suspect people
So basically what happened was the Roman Empire was conquered in bits and pieces all over its borders, but in a big chunk of it was conquered by Teutonic or Germanic tribes, mainly by Frankish tribes and their allies in the West. And when these Franks came in and conquered the Roman nation, it took the religion that was found there, the Orthodox Christian religion, a therapeutic religion, as he says in the second chapter, turned that therapeutic system of therapy, or system of the churches as a system of hospitals, as he calls it, into a legal system used to oppress the people and pacify them and keep them from rebelling against their Frankish feudalism, which is what was established in Western Europe, Frankish feudalism, a variation of feudalism that had never been seen until the Franks conquered the Romans. Feudalism always existed in